Hello, welcome one and all to the PPC Unfiltered podcast with Cory Lindholm, Michael Nadalin in Australia somewhere. He's joining us today. He's a little tired, guys. Give him a break, but he's a smart guy. He'll pick it up very quickly. How's it going, Michael?
I'm good, mate. I saw one of my favorite bands last night called the Gaslight Anthem from New Jersey,
Nice.
and it was really good. And it just means now I've seen three of my favorite bands this year, so it's been a good year for music for me.
Nice. That's awesome bucket list stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you're still
What,
young, got plenty of time.
yeah. And what about you, mate? How have you been? It's been a few weeks since we've chatted.
Yeah, it's been stressful because of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's a lot more hands-on than most of the rest of the year. So I always joke with my friends and stuff that it's my busy season, which it's a joke, but it's not really a joke.
Yeah.
It really just is so crazy. Everyone else is kind of taking vacations, and they're kind of checking out mentally from work. I'm like hyper, even more nerdy focused than I always am.
Yeah.
So just been creating some custom scripts for even more intense monitoring, so that I don't have to be everywhere at once. The code helps. We saw some amazing results, so we can get into a humble brag. How about you guys? Because you guys mostly work in the lead gen side, right? But
Yeah.
I know you still have some e-com clients. How did that go?
Amazing. Significantly up year on year, probably like 40% up year on year on average.
Hell yeah.
With the same amount of ad spend, but significantly higher return on ad spends. So,
nice. Are you guys measuring MER and everything else in cost per
no,
acquiring
this
a
is just
customer?
Google Ads, but then I do look at the overall. The companies do go stronger as well.
Beautiful. That's what we want to hear, right? So clients are happy.
Mate, everyone's happy at the moment.
Good.
Actually,
Yeah.
it's been interesting. It's been the opposite of. I've had this false belief in my mind that when it comes to the end of the year, people are not actively looking for management. We're getting so many inbound leads of people wanting to start now.
Me
And
too.
it's because some of it's B2B stuff related to the economy, and because of recent election decisions, people are more positive and they're wanting to get started on things. So, but yeah, it's just been a busy time, just like new opportunities coming out of the woodworks.
That's good. Is that normal for you guys? End of the year, start picking up on prospecting, or what is it? What has been
When
your
I look at it,
experience?
like when I reflect year on year, yes, I think I've just had some old beliefs from old agencies that I worked at, like, people slow down this time of year, but we've just noticed every year it just gets more busier now.
Okay, that's just
What
you
about
being
you?
awesome, man. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You're just getting better.
yeah, yeah. It's just constantly getting more awesome and magnetizing more. But do you notice it at the end of the year getting more busy, or is it
Yeah,
before Black Friday?
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah. For me, because I predominantly work with the larger ecom businesses out there, I hear from some people who are just not really happy with how things are going.
yeah,
Sometimes it's mid-November, prior to Black Friday, Cyber Monday,
yeah,
and I start getting an increase there. Some of the people that have sort of, unintentionally, I guess, if you will, procrastinated throughout the year, they've been kind of just hoping things would get better. And then October came, and they're like, all right, we just can't take this anymore. Like,
yeah,
we know we're only giving you a month and a half to ramp up, but we trust your
yeah,
data analysis skills and whatever to do it. And then they come in October. But December, I don't know. It's a mixed batch. I think every year is pretty different. I think, to your
yeah.
point, politics, market dynamics, things definitely influence the ups and downs of that. But yeah, really fantastic year. And it sounds like, if you want to jump into the news segment, it wasn't just us. This was a huge Black Friday, Cyber Monday year. You want to get into it?
Yeah, let's go, mate. Let's do
Okay.
this.
Let's do this. Okay, well, I just want to throw in a really our producer, our guy that cuts up the video is going to hate me for this, but I'm gonna actually take a real quick 180 before I get into the news and do a really
Beautiful.
quick humble brag, because I got it up in front of me and I'll probably forget, because I'm just so humble to show
Yeah,
this off. One of my clients, we. And again, I'm going to get into the practical, like what did we do for the most part. I can't, share every little secret, of course. You got to hire me for those things, but I'll talk about the bigger stuff in terms of how we got there. But from a year-over-year perspective, again, this is just one client. I have many clients, but this is a very, very high spenders, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month client. And we saw last month compared to the prior, so just year over year, November 1st to the 30th, we spend significantly more on Google Ads because they trust me and they expected, which I hope that they do, that we're going to get better results. And this is me competing with myself, ladies and gentlemen,
yeah,
because I have such a great retention rate. Generally, I like that. It's fun, right? Like, it's not to be too braggy here, but usually when I'm competing with other agencies, year over year, I always just expect to do better. I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, they weren't really doing things well. They didn't really have the data analysis skills, whatever. Now you've got a data science fueled guy getting in there and getting hands on. But this was actually me competing with myself. So this was fun to see. So we spent 46% more against hundreds of thousands. So it's not a very small amount here for most advertisers. We made 51% more revenue. Mur ended up pretty much the same as from a month standpoint. It's ended up being close to a 4x. So it was just fantastic, right? So we essentially got 51% more revenue, spend up 46%. I'm just going through the numbers right now. My favorite thing, because this client is very growth oriented. Again, that tends to be the ecom people that come to me. It's not like they just want like, let's just keep things the same. They're like, how can we push? How can we activate our data and get things better? Our new customer revenue went up 80% year
Wow.
over year with that 50% increase to spend. So that is huge for us.
Yeah.
Really, really big numbers. So it just in terms of practicality, guys, like what are some of the things that we did? We advertised, we started pushing earlier than we did in past years. So we ramped up mid-October. We also increased some of our prices prior to November to help balance the profitability issues we usually see in November when we start running deeper discounts. So that was a big influence. We also did a lot of product development throughout the year that certainly helped. And I think more than anything else, couple things is we had a good focus on Mur globally as opposed to like channel by channel. So
Yeah.
we pushed a little bit more aggressively on social channels. We expected that to have a big impact on organic and direct traffic as well as PPC efforts, and it was just that global omni-channel approach that really helped. So we weren't just narrowly focusing on how is Facebook doing, how is Google Ads doing in a
Yeah.
vacuum. We were looking at the global picture, really helped build confidence and continuing to
Mm.
fuel the fire in terms of budgets and revenue. So I think being more confident, having the data to support that, seeing past years how well that worked for us to fuel the fire earlier in the year or earlier prior to Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So certainly that, like I said, Project Melon, omni-channel global focus is here, and obviously just increases to measurement. I know every year I try to get better. I know you do too, Michael, in terms of your data analysis skills, whatever it is. So I also feel like my own analysis skills was helpful in being able to illuminate some of the things that we have seen in past years of, what if we ramped it up this much by this time? What if we did this? Kind of weigh the pros and cons of those things and essentially just say, okay, we can feel this confident for the most part that if we increase spend by here, we can expect to get X amount of revenue, do a bunch of projection models, all that fun, nerdy stuff that I like to do. It built a lot of confidence in spending more. So I think all those things helped. We didn't do, a dramatically bigger promotion than we did last year. So, even if I looked at this pessimistically and said, oh, well, we just did a bigger promotion, that wasn't the case. I think all those things played a big part. So I know that's kind of a word salad of different strategies and tactics, but at the end of the day, Michael, and I know you could speak to this, at the end of the day, it comes down to the business 101s. Do we have a product people want? Is
Yeah.
the market hot for this product? Are we hitting the target audiences, our defined target audiences? Are we communicating to Google our business objectives in a way that's going to work? It's not all about the weird hack that you found on LinkedIn. It's doing the right things right and really focusing your efforts on those things.
Mm. Yeah, man. Dude,
Yeah.
awesome work. The other
Yes,
thing
it
I
was
just
good
want to
stuff.
note for a lot of people who watch this is whilst everything you've said is impressive, the thing I find most impressive, I know it sounds so like it doesn't sound impressive by the numbers, but if you really understand data, you do. 40%, 46% increase in spend, 51% increase in revenue. That is really hard to do because
Yeah.
it's not just like you linearly spend more money and you just make it's just all linear.
Yeah.
Usually when especially over hundreds of thousands of dollars per month in a very competitive time, that is actually very hard to do. So mate, good
Crazy.
work on that because
Thank you.
all the things you've said were amazing, but that's what really caught my ear. And
Yeah.
obviously the new customer numbers, but the
Yeah.
fact that you was able to scale by 46% in 1 month or year on year and have revenue up 51%, that is not easy. Now,
It's massive.
maybe throughout the year, you've been able to just kind of keep growing it to that point, but even year on year,
Yeah.
it's still a big shift
Mm-hmm.
because that
Absolutely.
significantly shows bigger shifts in the business because cost per clicks increase. So maybe you could spend 46% and have the revenue be the same.
Yeah.
It could be that you
Good
have
point.
a lot of things on sale and you could have sold more items at a lower cost, but still a higher percentage in revenue compared to this spend increase, that's
Hmm.
what's really impressive. Good
Exactly.
work,
Yeah, I
man.
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
Yeah,
the other thing I
and
just want to
go
quickly
ahead,
ask
please.
is with the new customer numbers, where do you pull those from? Do you get them from the back end of Shopify? Are you using Google's data? Where do you pull that data from?
Yeah, so attribution tools that are linked up to our Shopify in this
Okay,
case. Yep. So it's
cool.
real numbers. We're cross verifying those with CMS, and then in terms of attribution, that utilizes machine learning to attribute credit to whatever channel
Yeah,
it feels is most appropriate based on our own data.
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
Um, cool. Any more? Oh no, that was humble brag.
that
I
was the
want to talk about
humble
some
brag.
strategy today, but I'll let if we. Do you want to add anything else to the end of this?
Oh, just gonna say, because I know a lot of people and a lot of content focus on like, okay, what do we do during Black Friday, Cyber Monday? But then it's like, now what? In the place that we are now, it's like, right,
Yeah,
what do we do now? Like, okay, so everything just went up, and now everything's kind of
yeah,
tanking, unsurprisingly, and we're kind of trying to build back an audience for maybe a late Christmas sale or something like that. So I just say, make sure you guys are really looking at your numbers carefully. Michael asked a really good question, which is where are you getting that data from? I think that's very, very underrated. And asking, where are you getting that? Are you looking at GA4, Google Analytics? Are you looking at Google Ads, the interface itself? In terms of attribution that Google credits itself, that's a really important thing in this time of the year. Don't just look at one source. I think it's important to kind of balance from everything and really try to learn more about attribution models and what are they telling you and how much can you trust that model, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, the more data has, the more you confident you can feel into it. But I just want to say very, very quickly, as you're ramping down your spends, which is going to be expected. I do get that question sometimes in consulting is like, what do we do immediately after? Or do we just cut spends in half? Like, how do you figure out the percentage to do it? I tend to try to track somewhere between what you're seeing in terms of conversion rates. So let's say conversion rates drop 60%, but those are still normal for that day of the week, outside of major promotions and seasonality. Have we fallen back down to normal levels or have things really dropped below that? You got to find sort of a healthy in between to drop those spends because you don't want to just completely kill the account and
yeah,
wait until that Christmas sale. So it is very tricky. There's no one size fits all for anybody. I tend to say, hey, if it goes down 60%, this is a really rough way to do it, right? So if it goes down 60%, you don't have the tools to really analyze this at a deeper level. Maybe try dropping things like 30, 40%. I wouldn't recommend going all the way to 60%. That might be a little
mm,
bit too dramatic, but you got to look at your own data and make sense of it, right? And at the end of the day, that's
yeah,
where a lot of the skill set comes from as a PPC analyst. Is that. But I just wanted to throw that in there because I think a lot of people get
yeah,
lost in like, crap, everything's going down. MER has dropped, ROAS has dropped, CPA has gone way up, CAC has gone way up. What do we do? Do we just,
mm,
drop everything down 80%? Do we go back to the budget we were spending, leading up to November? Again, you got to look at your own data,
yeah.
but I would say find like a healthy balance in the in between and then kind of go from there. Give it a couple days, ramp it down more if you need to, etc. But anyway, go ahead. I want to hear the
No, I think,
strategy you had in
and
mind.
just to add on to that, man, because I think that's
Please.
really important is that high, and then it goes, well, what's next? And we have this with a lot of clients in any industry, being it lead generation or e-commerce. There's the two things you need to do all the time. Number one, speak to the client. Make sure that you're in tune with what, like, rather than them just throwing at you, or you even just making up stuff in your mind. Oh, it's dropping down now. It's catastrophizing, whatever. Speak to them with what's going on in their business, the new sales cycle, what's going on, because they may expect it, they may not. And if they don't expect it, then they're going to be like hitting you up crazily. Or if they're like, no,
Yeah.
no, we expect this, then you might just need to just tune it down a little bit. The other thing, which is like the most simple thing, which is most people watching this podcast are probably like, it goes against this, but it's like use your own data. When you come to podcasts like this, you're always listening for a strategy. What do I do post like this? Or what do I do before Black Friday? Or what do I do in general? You've got to benchmark your own data.
Yeah.
So, for example, in this case, you don't want to be benchmarking against last month's data. So maybe you look at the average of the 3 months before November and see
Mm-hmm.
what the average benchmark is in CTRs, cost per clicks, conversion rates. Now, I know it's a different time of the year, but just benchmark that maybe every month. Just know what the averages are at the same time last year in early December. So
December,
that way
exactly.
you're never like, just don't compare against November. But then
Yes.
once you've got those own benchmarks, when you speak to the client or even review the data yourself, you're actually knowing what you're actually comparing against. Because if you're
Yes.
like, oh, do I decrease spend by 50%? There's no why behind it. Versus if you look at last year and you're like, look, our ROAS last year was 4 in early December. Yes, it was 7x in November last month, but we're already at 4.5 this month. Like, we actually seem to be good year on year against our own benchmarks.
Hmm.
Let's just keep going, communicate
Yeah.
it to the client, and things will work out. I think
Yes.
that's the biggest challenge. People don't communicate and just fear that by asking questions or suggesting things, they'll look like an idiot. But you're an idiot if you don't. That's the irony.
I
And then,
agree.
secondly, just not using the data that's readily available for you. If it's just
Yeah.
in platform data, just use that. If it's offline data, use that. But
Yeah.
actually use your own data to set your own benchmarks.
Yeah, and guys, also don't forget, this is a good time to jump on. There's a potential competitive edge in your market. That sometimes, not always.
Yeah.
Check out your auction insights. Good time if you kind of sleep on those insights that are there. Check out auction insights. Maybe a lot of advertisers have just they're not very data driven. And I mentioned this to some of my clients. Like a lot of our competition, they just drop spends. They don't even think about it. It's just like,
Yeah.
Black Friday, Cyber Monday is over. Let's just like drop everything 100%. And I'm like, guys, this is a great opportunity
Yeah.
for those like procrastinators that still want a discount. They understand they kind of missed the boat on the big discount, but we're still running something.
Yeah.
Might be able to get the cheapest CPCs we could get all year with this type of traffic level, this type of interest
Yeah.
level. It's not like everybody buys in those 4 days or whatever it is between Black Friday and Cyber
Yeah.
Monday. Some
I
people are going to lag
didn't.
behind. They're busy. There you go.
Yeah. I didn't.
And we don't want to lose those people. Like, keep hitting them with ads. Don't just kill
Yeah.
your spend and then let that go to the advertiser B who
Yeah.
decided, let's just stay aggressive. MER's good,
Mm.
CAC is good. Let's just keep this going, right? And we'll kind of test day by day and we'll see how we need to adjust. So don't forget that. There's some competitive edges that are available to those that are willing to risk a little bit more.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Dude,
Okay.
Cory, great work, man. So let's keep moving forward because we've got to
Yes.
get through some awesome stuff. So,
Of course.
a few weeks last week, I actually had a chat with Aaron Young, who has a
Mm-hmm.
big YouTube channel, and the agenda of it was just like strategies for 2025. And I actually put like together 3 strategies, but we only had time to do one. And one was for e-commerce because whilst we're not heavily weighted towards e-commerce, every time we take on an e-commerce client, they go amazing. And it's the same with lead generation. And as time goes on with advertising, I go, do people really pay me for this stuff? But I recognize that the power really comes from simplicity. And a lot of times when I'm either looking at accounts that have been run in-house by like big enterprises
Mm-hmm.
or they're being run by other freelancers, the strategies reflect what's being told in the market. And the market strategies are really bad. For example, I had a friend yesterday, she reached out to me and I built out an account for her. Literally just like I did in 20 minutes. And then she's like, "Oh, I've got someone to run it for me." She's a psychologist and she's like, "Oh, we're just going to do PMAX and a search campaign, which was targeting the wrong country in broad match and maximize conversions from the start with a really small budget." And I'm like, okay, well, I built you a perfect campaign and then you let someone else just like run this. And when I look at it, I'm like, maximize conversion. Google says that. Broad match, Google says that. Like targeting, obviously, Google doesn't say target the wrong countries, but it's so crazy how over time accounts and people running them, Cory, you and I speak at a certain level. I don't see your work, but we just assume that we're good. But then you go here, everyone thinks they're good, and then you go into
Yeah.
the market, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
So this is a strategy that I talked about in the video, but I do want to talk about it again for this. It's going to sound so simple, and but it takes a lot of discipline to do it. When we take on bigger accounts, even smaller accounts, one thing I've noticed is this is lead generation. E-commerce, you can do the same in the e-commerce form, is really segmenting down the account based on lines of business, or even if you need a report on different lines of business, or if like whatever the business objectives are. Too many times I see in accounts, and it's not even like brand and non-brand kind of separated, that most of the time people are putting brand in their non-brand campaigns or brand is triggering it. But let's
Yeah.
just say you work for I don't know, an insurance company and you've got insurance for car, motor, business, whatever it is. So many times I still see the same keywords in one campaign because people are like, oh, the data will optimize. No. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but like the most powerful strategy I've seen in Google Ads over my whole career is it's not the algorithms, not this. It's actually just segmenting campaigns to reflect different lines of business or to reflect the business structure.
Hmm.
Because it means that number one, you can actually see on a high level what the performance is, being it clicks, impressions, impression share, budget. Which number two means that you can actually allocate budget because a lot of businesses go, look, we want to be pushing this area of our business. Here's the budget for it. Number three is the human condition is the harder you make something to manage, the less likely you are to manage it, which means then it's less likely to be optimized and improved. So I've just seen more and more recently that when we take on accounts, being a big account spending 20, 50, 100 plus a month, the first thing I always do is like I let their campaigns run, but I restructure it as well. And I start letting my one come over. And it is crazy what just happens from that. Same type of keywords, same ads, same everything, but just with a better structure. Now, this structure has taken 10 years to get to the point knowing how to do it. But
Hmm.
by doing a better, cleaner, clearer structure, the account will just start taking care of itself, which also means that when I'm doing reporting for the clients in sheets and other things, I can literally show them this line of business spent this much money in the account. We did this much revenue offline. I can do a quick, clean, really clean, just going, we spent $50,000, we made $500,000, or, in quotes, and then $200,000 in sales, and start to measure out the actual business lines, but actually seeing what happens from click, conversion, quote, and sale.
Yeah.
And I just do not like it. Actually, just I don't go, I don't know how people do it. They just don't do this stuff. They literally just look at the ad account and go, we spent this much, we got this many leads. And
Yeah.
that's where the limitations of advertising is coming now is like advertising does not end in the account. It ends with like the actual sale. And if you're not starting to like align your work with that and structuring accounts like that, you're going to be out of this industry in 2 years' time.
You're beating me to it. That's exactly my thoughts. Is that that's one of your biggest value adds is being able to interpret whatever the business is telling you and transferring that knowledge into the tool that is Google Ads or whatever it is, Facebook
Yeah.
Ads or whatever. Because as much as Google, Google's great. That's one of the reasons we like to utilize it as a tool for our businesses that we partner with. We still need Google to understand what we want. These automated, fully automated things, even PMAX, that's just a generic structure, is sometimes not always going to be the best fit. Everything on Broadmatch, sometimes most often not going to be the best fit. You
Yeah.
still need to get in there. You still need to do your job of segmenting things that communicate to Google what we want, what we need, where we'd like to optimize things, push things, decrease things. Some businesses are really simple. They might not need any kind of dramatic segmentations, and that's fine, but it still takes that expertise from someone like you or me to say, you know what, your goals are not that complicated. You only have 4 products. We don't need this overthought, over analytical, over optimized account, because we know from our experience, as much as that looks great on paper, that like, man, this is so, scientifically backed based on your
Yeah.
historical data, the reality is Google's going to probably have a tough time with such limited data.
Mm.
Again, these machine learning algorithms, these things, these at their core, they need a lot of data to do good, like I mentioned earlier. So
Yeah.
if you're not taking that into account, you could really shoot yourself in the foot by over
Yeah.
optimizing, getting really hyper focused on segmentation. But I think in more cases than not, absolutely, you need to be not over segmenting, but segmenting enough to your point that it is giving Google what it needs to achieve our goals. So very, very important point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sets the direction and it stops mixing data together that shouldn't, because
Yeah.
a lot of businesses, like if it's e-commerce, this is different. It's for like, this is mainly like e-commerce, you can lump a lot of products together. It's very unlikely that they're selling like a tent and then a pair of shoes. Most of the clients are like, if they're selling, clothing, it's a shirt and pants. It's in the same sphere. But for a lot of businesses, when they have different lines of business, they may be targeting very different types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're mixing different data pools of people, keywords, ads into the same area, you're just messing it up. But then also I notice is this, it's like over time, inevitably, if you simplify your campaigns too much, the client, the business will go, oh, we want to focus more on this line of business this month. Can you add more budget to it? And it's like,
Yeah.
well, okay, well, we can't because it's in the same campaign. So now we're going to have to split it out
Mm-hmm.
and the data's going to kind of reset itself. Yes, you know what converts, but It's like, why not just get ahead of it? Why not always assume that the business is going, hey, we want to push this line of business now,
Mm-hmm.
and set it up that way. So then from the start, the data's already pulling into one area. So all you're doing is pulling the levers of budget and
Yep.
impression share more than actually just, trying to go, let's just lump it together, see what the algorithm does. Because
Yeah.
this is for you, Cory, because I know you're not like this, but most people who just kind of put things together and consolidate it, they do it because they're lazy and they actually just don't understand how data works. The
Mm.
data is like you need a big pool of data, and they're going from that perspective. But they go, but if you're putting different things in there, it's like making a soup. Like, are you
Mm.
making like a minestrone soup or like a chocolate fondue like soup? And if you
Ooh.
put those two things in together, you're going to have a very like gross outcome. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing now. And this comes from like years of experience of going, understanding business data and business intelligence and working with clients is the ad accounts need to reflect the business.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not doing that, sooner or later, when you land a big client and they're like, oh, can we get some reports on this line of business? You're going to be like, I can't do that. And then you'll
Yeah.
start to realize why we do this stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to say too, guys, also just remember sometimes you're going to get a kick in the ass reality check that even though it made sense to break that thing out, it just doesn't work on its
Yeah.
own, and it sucks. You're like, this
Yeah.
makes sense to put this in a separate campaign, especially when the client needs
Yeah.
additional budget or something, just it needs to live there, and you do it and it just doesn't. You give it, time, you give it budget, you give it different ROAS targets, different bids,
Mm-mm.
whatever, and you just can't get it to push it. And what I found some of the time when that happens, just maybe a sidetrack hot tip, look at inter-campaign, like ad group by ad group. Um, how do I say this? Like sort of cross interactions between ad groups and attribution. Sometimes you'll find that one ad group is actually kind of feeding another ad group in terms of conversions. And so what happens is sometimes you'll take like a really top performing ad group that's sucking up all the budget. Let's say you keep that one in, you move everything else out. All of a sudden you can't get that other stuff to spend at
Yeah.
all, or vice
Yeah.
versa. You take the big one out and you move it, and all of a sudden everything starts dying. You're like, what is going on? Don't forget that sometimes there is this attribution that's happening at the ad group level. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people forget about that. They just think campaign, they think cross channel, but there also is things that are happening at the ad group channel. So it's something that's very hidden that I had to find through my own analysis, but it might be helpful for some when they go, what the heck is going on, Anyway, a little sidetrack.
Well, mate, I'll keep the other ones for the next few weeks just so
Okay.
we can have maybe once strategy that works on like a meta level for most businesses, especially
Okay.
like depending on the industry, but usually bigger accounts. So
Mm-hmm.
we can wrap this part up here.
All right.
So what's the next section, mate? What
I
do we
got
got
some
there?
fun stuff. All right, so we got some
Okay,
news. Let's go into the
nice.
news section. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So Black Friday and Cyber Monday has concluded. I know some advertisers, some of my own businesses I'm working with, are still running some sort of late Cyber Monday sales and
Yeah.
transitioning into Christmas sales pretty soon and all that stuff. Let's just say holiday sales. But there is a lot of news Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So, Michael, some of this is a surprise. Some of this is going to be like, yeah, I kind of could have expected that. But regardless, let's get right into it. So, record-breaking online sales. So, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, both of those guys set new e-commerce records, particularly in the U.S. Again, big surprise, over consumption and all that kind of stuff. So, U.S. consumers spent between, and there's a lot of estimates out there, so you might see something that's different, but I think the general range was between like 12 and 13.5 billion in a single day. This was for Cyber Monday in particular. But Black Friday was also record setting, right? So Cyber Monday, between roughly 12 and 13.5 billion in a single day in the US. That was a significant increase from the previous year. I couldn't find it in my notes. I can't remember exactly the percentage increase, but it was massive. So definitely the
Wow.
biggest Cyber Monday we've ever seen. So if you're looking at your accounts, obviously, if you're an all-star, take all the credit, but also be realistic with yourself at least. Maybe you don't have to share this with everybody else, but also know there was a pretty big one for everybody. So there was a little bit of luck that might have came along with that. But again, I'm sure, if it's Michael or I, it's all skill and there's no luck at all, right? Michael.
There's no luck, mate. It's pure data and intelligence and good looks.
Good looks. Well, at least for what I was, right?
Yeah.
All right. So implications for marketers out there, right? So obviously this kind of substantial growth, if you will, it kind of underscores the importance of if you're doing e-commerce, robust e-commerce strategies. You want to be making sure that next year, we should expect. I mean, no one can see in the future, but if you were one of those advertisers that hey, let's not even bother with promotions, I totally understand that. In some cases, it makes sense, or you're just testing. I'm sure you kind of feel a little left out. A little FOMO going on of like, crap, we missed the biggest Cyber Monday. But this happens in investing in general, right, Michael? It's what is it, the 4 days out of the year on average is where you make most of your
Yeah.
of
Yep.
your biggest increases in your portfolio. Well, it's kind of like that in advertising. Sometimes you might have missed the boat this year, but that's okay. You can always consider it for next year.
Yeah.
But obviously, it just marks the importance of such big holidays. But also, know, guys, that I'm sure your work made a big impact, but be realistic. Also, know that it just wasn't generally very, very big Cyber Monday for everybody. So that was pretty exciting
Nice, man. And
in
we
aggregate.
contributed to that. A
And we
lot of
did
that. Maybe
most of it.
some would say a
Ah,
high percentage of that.
like 98%. Yeah, of course. All right. Second piece of news. This is going to be all Black Friday, Cyber Monday, guys. Next week we'll cover some of the things, recent things that have happened, transpired in the news with Google Ads. But I don't know, Michael. There hasn't been like oh my goodness moments. Everybody's really just been focused on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So I figure we'll
Yeah.
focus in on that. Any comments on the record-breaking online sales? Is that a surprise to you? Did you expect that it was going to be a big year?
I look, we're all in our own little echo chambers of like the clients we work with. So like, the data size is, small. Not everyone's working with heaps of clients. And I've just noticed for all of our clients, the year on year, the month to month, the growth is just happening. So,
Hmm.
I'm not surprised. Oh, my calendar's just gone off. I'm not surprised because things are just been trending up. But that's just
Mhm.
like, but these are good businesses working with good advertisers to get good results. But the whole market sentiment as well. It's more than just e-commerce. I'd be
Yep.
interested to see what percentage of that was e-commerce versus in store, because I'd
Mhm.
presume like a high percentage of that would be online.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not surprised at all. Like, I think people's buying behaviors, I think market sentiment at the moment with the recent election in America and
Mhm.
what people believe that will happen, what that may or may not happen with the economy is giving people hope that
Yep.
inflation's going to decrease, that, and people just want to be buying stuff anyway. It's a
Yeah.
good time to get discounted Christmas stuff.
Mhm.
Also, it was the day after Thanksgiving, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Black Friday.
Yeah.
Yep. Day after Thanksgiving.
So,
Mhm.
do you reckon that had an impact or not? I'd probably presume that it might have had a negative impact, or maybe not.
Same time every year, so yeah. At
Yeah,
least we have that to compare. I guess it's a shorter, like we talked about before. It's a shorter holiday kind of sort of
yeah,
buying season before because Black Friday and Thanksgiving in general fell later in the month than the past couple of
yeah,
years. So
yeah.
there's some of that. I also think actually this is the next point in the news that there was a lot more early extended sales periods this year. A lot more
Yeah,
retailers
yes,
decided, to build it. And we had talked about this. That's one of my tips
yeah,
for you guys a couple weeks ago. Was like, guys, push, push, push. And now you want to build this
yeah,
audience. I know usually kind of cut spends in October to kind of get ready for a big spend in November, but I think that wasn't always the best strategy. And you saw a lot more retailers trying to get ahead of it and capture those early shoppers and distribute the demand over that
mm,
longer period of time. I think that was a big implication of what
yeah.
happened here and what
I noticed
transpired.
that a lot across a lot of retailers, even internally with clients, and I think that's what drove a lot of them. It was interesting to see that a lot of clients actually on Black Friday had a pretty normal average day, but the days leading up to it was significantly higher. Well,
Mm,
that's what I
yeah.
saw, at least now, data
Yeah.
across like multiple clients,
Sure.
is that they actually had better revenue days and weeks before Black Friday and Cyber
Mm,
Monday,
yeah.
which is wild. But I think it's just the end of the day, it's like people are just hungry to spend the money now. Like,
Yeah.
they're hungry, they're waiting for Black Friday. But it's like if you just drop a good offer in front of them, they're going to take it. And I think
Yeah.
that's why over time it's gone from like Black Friday to like Cyber Monday to like Black Friday week to like
Yeah.
Black Friday month now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's the same as like Christmas when sometimes, shops start like showing Christmas stuff like 2 months before December, or like Easter and or
Yeah.
other religions. But obviously those types of holidays are quite commercialized in Australia and America. Is, people are just bringing this stuff forward for capitalism.
Yeah.
So yeah, just I think that's the reason why it's drawing it, because people are actually offering these promotions earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too. This is a good one for businesses, right? This whole prolonging the sales period, it's great for sales, but when you're in the mix of it, right, and you have to deal with supply chain issues and the
Mm,
challenges that come this time of the year, extending the sales period does help you to manage that, right? It keeps the stress levels a little lower than just trying to get everything ready for like one crazy week.
yeah,
So I know some of the talks with my clients was that, like, thank goodness this year we do not have to overly stress, about stock levels. Like, we're good. Because we got ready for this. We started running sales at a high level earlier in the year than we did in the past, and that was
yeah.
definitely helpful.
I thought you were going to say
Both
it from the other end where stock levels like would be going low. I've got a few clients that are notorious for just selling out, even
sometimes.
with all their supply lines. But it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
it's nice until
yeah,
they're the top selling products. And then the Google feed is obviously going, well, out of stock. And then it starts moving towards other items, which are not as profitable or high selling. So
yeah,
it's the same thing on the other side as well, that having
yeah,
extended sales can actually sell out products that are usually extremely profitable and do sell by
yeah.
themselves. And then you're out of stock and then you're missing out on profit, but also just that timeline of like your revenue's gone shh, shh.
Yep.
So
And that speaks
important.
to customer satisfaction. As you're going to enhance customer satisfaction, you're reducing all those shipping delays and all that
Yeah.
stuff that comes with it, and it helps with retention and customer lifetime value, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Nice.
perfect, Michael. We got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to wrap up here just with some of the news, and then we can move on because I know you got another call right after this. So, moving into point number 3 in terms of Black Friday, Cyber Monday news, mobile shopping dominance. So, this was a significant portion of online sales during this period were conducted on mobile devices. Probably, again, to most marketers out there, not a big surprise. We continue to see this year over year that
Yeah.
mobile is just increasing where people are comfortable buying things, right? So, over half of total sales on Cyber Monday, this is per Business Insider studies, or that's the publisher that at least to discuss these studies, over half of the total sales on Cyber Monday were on mobile devices. So again, implications for marketers, guys. You got to optimize your websites. I
Yeah.
can't believe we still have to talk about this in 2024, Michael. But you've got to be optimizing your e-com platforms, your sites,
Yeah.
whatever, your landing pages for mobile. You could be missing out on a huge chunk of traffic if you're just over optimizing desktop and just kind of like, yeah, next year will be our mobile You got to get on it as soon as possible. It's always next year until it's done. So,
Yeah.
you know,
No, that's
that's
so crazy. Over the last, I reckon, 10 years, I've been seeing mobile traffic going from 30% to 40 to 50 to 60 to 70 to like 70. On average, it's like 75 to 80% now across any industry. It is wild.
yeah.
Now, the conversion rates are usually lower, and it may just be, it's part of the user psychology, but seeing now, though, as you said, more sales now coming from mobile or balancing now, it's like I think it has turned now. It's
Yeah,
mobile
over
first, and it
half.
actually is mobile first.
Actually is, yeah. In terms
Like
of
if you look at
actual
the
sales.
data on the advertising channels being Google or Meta, you just see that like most traffic comes from um, mobile devices.
Yep. Yep. So
And you've
guys,
just
get
got to
on it.
think maybe the reason why more sales are coming from, you know, maybe the conversion rate's low on mobile. It's not because people are delaying to buy on, your desktop. It's because maybe you really need a mobile strategy, like an aggressive mobile strategy.
Hmm.
And I think
Yep.
that would significantly change a lot of businesses.
Yeah, I agree. And don't freak out about all the little SEO things you could do. Like, yes, if you got the money, the resources, you're trying to optimize for those 1%. Obviously try your best to do everything you can, but it's always the basics: fast load times,
Yeah.
intuitive navigation, right? Mobile friendly in ecom, mobile friendly checkout process, or mobile friendly lead forms, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's always those core three, right, Mike? I mean, it's fast load times, navigation, mobile friendly checkout, and obviously all the other stuff is great. The social cues, the reviews and stuff like that. But again, speed, navigation, and mobile
Yeah.
friendly checkouts, super crucial.
Yeah.
Focus on that 80-20 stuff. That's the 20% that's probably going to get you to the 80% of results right there.
Yeah.
So
I just think about myself with my iPhone. It's just anytime they've got that Apple Pay there and I can just double click on the side and then it just processes the card. It's just things like that make
yeah,
such a significant difference where
yeah,
number one, you don't need to put in your credit card or your card details manually. Or number two, you don't need to like log into PayPal. But even just having that Apple Pay feature in there makes
yeah.
such a difference because you're trying just to streamline it as much and simply as possible.
Wow. You read my mind. It was like a perfect segue. It's as if I shared all of these notes with you prior to the call, which I didn't. So that's the next thing, is actually the increased use of buy now, pay later. You people you're buying these big things, you don't really have the money now. I'm not going to get into personal finance, but that is really popular this year. So there was a
Yeah.
record usage of buy now, pay later options during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, in particular categories, apparel, furniture, houseware, and I think it was
Electronics.
electronics.
Yeah.
Electronics.
Like
Yep,
TVs and stuff like that.
big purchases. So, if in
Yeah.
other words, implications, you got to offer these flexible payment options, right? If you
Yeah.
want those people that are a little more budget conscious, maybe they don't really have the money right now, maybe they shouldn't even be buying this new fridge, but hey, customers, this is business, right? This is what we're doing here. So if you want to try to, get into capturing those people, if all of your competition is offering flexible payment options, you might want to get in the game if you can. And if that's something that you're comfortable with, and offering those kind of flexible payment options. So just another quick insight. Again, we're really low on time, so I'm going to just rapid fire these off, and then we're going to sign out, Michael. So high income households drove most of the spend. That's people earning over $100,000 a year. So make sure you're targeting those people or creating specific strategy around the people if that's relevant for you. A big push towards sustainability and ethical shopping. So people looking for eco-friendly and ethically produced products. And then the importance of personalized marketing also saw a big increase. of personalized recommendations and targeted promotions definitely influenced a lot of the purchasing decisions this year. So that's it. Super rapid fire. Michael,
Beautiful.
awesome episode. I got to let you go here. Let people know where they can find you.
Marketlead.com.au, Marketlead on YouTube, Michael Nadalin on LinkedIn. Cory,
Awesome.
how do people find you?
All right, Cory Lindholm, ads by Cory, LinkedIn, Cory Lindholm, LinkedIn. I think that's it. I got an ads by Cory profile page. I really got to build that thing up. But regardless, Cory Lindholm, YouTube,
We've got to get back
Spotify
online
for
with the
PPC
strategies.
Unfiltered. Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
See ya.
See ya.